Hello, YouTube, and wherever else you may be watching this. Today is going to be a bit of a different video. I'm not actually going to be doing demonstrations today. Today's video is on service dogs. I am going to both be introducing a new training program that I am starting and also talking about choosing the right dog and where to get it. So, a bit on my new program. I'm going to be starting a series of dog training online programs that you can join, and they'll be priced accordingly depending on how long the program is and what the content is. It's a service dog. They will be service dog training programs from start to finish. The puppy basics, as well as scent imprinting, teaching alerts for seizure alert, diabetic alert, whatever kind of medical alert you're going to need. We're going to have a different program for mobility support and yet another one for psychological support. So look forward to those in the future. But today we are going to be talking about, again, choosing the right dog and where to get it. So I get a lot of questions on where to find a service dog, where to find a service dog candidate if you're going to be training your dog. And one of the common questions I get regarding those topics is, can't I just train my own dog? I already have a dog. She loves me. Can't I train her? The answer is yes, with a caveat. And we will talk about why a little bit later. The second question is, I want to rescue a dog. Can't I find a dog at the pound? Yes, again, with a caveat. And the most common place to find a dog is a breeder, and I'll tell you why in a bit. You can also find dogs on Craigslist and with friend recommendations. Now, we're going to talk about each of those and what those caveats are. So, if you want to train a dog you already own, if you want to find a dog at the pound, if you want to find a dog off Craigslist, or your friend has a perfect dog that they're trying to get you to rescue from somewhere, or maybe they have a dog that they were willing to give you, many of those dogs are over a year old. Now, it's not a terrible problem. You can train a dog at any age, but it's best, especially with medical alert, it is best to imprint on that puppy. And you have the first 14 weeks to imprint on a puppy. And after that, everything is counter conditioning and training. So if these dogs have never been out of the house except on maybe a weekly walk, the first time they ever see a shopping cart, they lose their lid. If they are confident enough to handle shopping carts and regular public access trips, they're willing to learn and they are bonded to you, you're going to have to work really hard on leash manners. They may have health problems. So if the dog is good in every way, by all means train that dog. But if the dog is nervous, if the dog has health problems, if the dog is close to the age of 10, and if the dog doesn't like other dogs, you'd be surprised how many service dogs and non-service dogs you see out in public that are barking and lunging at you. Dogs that have been house dogs most of their life, their entire life up to you considering them as a service dog, they have a very protective nature and they are likely to react to those dogs in public places. So I'm going to talk now about the ideal dog. So when you're keeping your eye out for this service dog prospect, these are some things you want to consider. Temperament. First and foremost, when I am training a dog, I look at temperament. Temperament and health equally. Temperament, you don't want a dog that's rattled by much. Gunshots, fireworks, semi-trucks driving next to you, trains, shopping carts rattling down a bumpy sidewalk, horns blaring. This should never happen to anybody with a service dog, but it always does. You'd be walking through a store and some little child will grab your dog's butt fur. Sometimes adults do it too. grab your dog's butt fur. And it is a blessing when the dog doesn't turn around and go "Rawr!" at that person. So if the dog's not rattled by much, that is a great temperament to have. You want it to be calm in public places. That is a learned behavior, but believe it or not, some dogs have a really tough time learning this. You want it to be friendly, but not a solicitor of attention. You don't want to have a service dog that's paying attention to every person going by and completely ignoring you. You want to consider maybe easy grooming. If these dogs have to be washed weekly. If you're lucky, every other week. If you're so lucky, once a month. But in all seriousness, if you go out in public and your dog smells like dog and it stinks, store managers have a right to ask you to leave. You do not want your dog coming in and disrupting their business. You don't want to be sitting down at a restaurant and have stinky under your table, smelling up the area around your table. You have to have a clean dog. So if you have a Samoyed or a Keesound or some fluffy big dog, imagine trying to groom that dog every week. And I don't mean just brushing, I mean a full-on bath. So cleanliness is necessary. So grooming may be something you want to consider when you're looking for your next prospect. You want a dog that's eager to learn, but not high-strung. You don't want a dog that has to be worked all the time. Sometimes if you're having a bad day, you may not leave your couch. So you want a dog that's eager to learn and willing to work, but not a nagger. You want a dog that is sound in mind and body. We talked about temperament, having a good temperament. You also want a dog that's sound in mind, not off the wall, and in body. That means if you're going to a breeder, you have access to those health certificates from the parents that rule out any genetic diseases, and you can see what the hips, eyes, and elbows look like in the parents and the history of those good hips, eyes, and elbows. So you want a dog that's not going to break down on you before the age of 5. Healthy, that means food. What were the parents being fed? Were the parents malnourished? If you're getting a dog off Craigslist, you may or may not have access to this. If you're getting a dog through a friend, same. But if you're getting a dog through a pound, rarely can they tell you the dog's been on this steady diet, the parents were too, you have a healthy dog here. You don't want a dog with allergies. You don't want a dog with other skin problems. You don't want a dog with eye problems. I mean, they're going to have to be confident and comfortable out in public with you. And if they can't see things approaching them, or they can't hear things approaching them, or they're just feeling bad that day because they're so itchy, that's not a good candidate for you. That is not a good candidate as a service dog. Okay. Other things to consider that may not be dog specific. Your health. How much exercise are you capable of providing that dog? Some breeds and some dogs require more exercise and mental stimulation. And exercise does not mean work. Dogs need downtime. They need their daily walk every day. Sniffing is very calming and relaxing to them. Just like you may need your time sitting down reading. You may need your time watching your favorite show. You may need your time on your back porch drinking your glass of iced tea. Dogs need time to walk and sniff. When they're being a service dog, their full attention has to be on you and potentially other things around them. For example, if you have a psychological support dog, your dog may be doing body blocking while you're out at a store to keep a good perimeter around you. That's not relaxing. That's constant mental stimulation. So how capable are you of taking that dog on a walk or 2 or 3 every day to let him unwind? How capable are you playing constant games of fetch? How capable are you of thinking up fun things for that dog to do to help him unwind? That is going to that's gonna be a big thing when you're looking for your service dog, because somebody who is in a wheelchair and maybe also not capable of leaving their house for a walk on a frequent basis, that person may not want a border collie. Okay, grooming. We talked about that. Are you going to be grooming at home, or are you going to be taking your dog to a professional groomer? How much does that professional groomer charge? Something else to consider. Drive and mental stimulation. We're going to talk about that a little bit later because those are two very different things. Food and size. Not all large dogs eat more than small dogs, but some breeds eat more than other breeds. So if you want a Newfoundland, but you will have a very tiny budget, that's probably not a good choice. Your disability. What will your dog be doing? Some dogs are naturally prone to certain behaviors. For example, the most common breeds that people pick for psychological support are pit bulls, labs, and herding breeds. I see a lot of German Shepherds and Australian Shepherds specifically out for military veterans or police veterans. So the issue I see with that is herding breeds are prone to be very in tune to their owner. Now that sounds like a good thing, right? Except when you get nervous, those breeds specifically get nervous. The herding breeds, they get nervous. They feed off of your nervous energy. If you're confident, they're confident. So in retrospect with that, I also see a lot of reactive herding service dogs for people who have who need a psychological support dog. So if you are needing a specific breed, it may not be your favorite breed, but look into what breeds are good at what you need. For example, if you need a mobility support dog because you drop things and you're not capable of picking them up all the time, maybe you're a person who loses your balance, a golden retriever may be a great candidate because golden retrievers love to carry things around in their mouth. They love to bring things to you. That may be a good breed. A bully breed, aside from public access issues that you may run into, is a good candidate for psychological support because those dogs are very rock solid. So they're not going to be rattled by much because they're bred to not be rattled by much. So if you have questions on, maybe you're considering a certain breed and you would like more advice or clarity or anything on what you're considering, I'd be happy to answer. Okay, now we're going to go back on where to get your dog. A lot of dogs I'm seeing on performance dog websites, performance dog social media pages, or advertised free to good home would be a great this or that. I'm going to talk about red flags that you may see in ads on social media, Craigslist, or any other pet finder site for dogs being rehomed, maybe not necessarily from a breeder, sometimes from a breeder too. I always say people are blind where their own dogs are concerned. Especially rescues I see, they see a certain behavior and they think, oh yeah, this dog would be a great service dog because of this, that, and the other. What they're saying may mean something different, or they may not understand it completely. So here are some things that are commonly said or commonly advertised on those pages. So breed, we talked about how some breeds are prone to certain behaviors. Here's one. He has so much energy, he'd love a job. I see that one a lot. This dog would love a job. It would be a great service dog. What that means is that dog has a lot of mental stamina. Okay? Dogs that love having jobs love to be worked. So think about mental stamina. What are you a person okay with giving that dog puzzles all day long, working that dog all day long, finding new jobs for that dog all day long? So for example, a person I saw somebody teach their dog how to change the laundry over or bring the dirty laundry down from their upstairs loft. So those are other jobs. Pulling stuff out of the cabinet, putting stuff back into the cabinet, things that may or may not be related to your disability. Dogs that need a job are advertised need a job are dogs that need to be entertained on a regular basis. Another one, drive versus energy. Let's talk about that. So there are different types of drive. So there's play drive. That is a dog who loves to play with their owner or play with other dogs. There's prey drive, dogs that like to chase things. There's herding drive. So chasing things and herding are two very different things. Think of a sighthound chasing a lure or chasing a rabbit, and then a dog that likes to fan around and keep things in a group. So there's also dog drive, believe it or not. Dogs that like to chase and play with other dogs and want nothing to do with you. So if you see has lots of drive, ask him what kind of drive. What kind of drive does this dog have? Herding drive and prey drive and drive to chase dogs, those are not often compatible with service dog work. Play drive, however, is, because you can teach a lot of things through play. You can also curb these things. Herding drive can be turned into something else if you know how to work it, but you need to work with a professional trainer most often to curb those things. Okay, you can also have drive and energy are two different things. People use them interchangeably, but they are two different things. For example, we talked about drive. Drive is the desire to do something. Energy just means lots of energy. So you can have high drive, high desire to work, with low energy. The dog burns out fast. You can also have high energy with low drive. So in that case, you would have lots of energy with a low frustration threshold. That means the dog gets frustrated quickly when it's not rewarded often enough learning a new behavior, and the dog decides to go off and chase a rabbit instead of play with you or keep training. Okay, so your frustration threshold is the point where the dog gets frustrated learning a new behavior. A high frustration threshold is a dog that will keep trying even though they're failing often. A low frustration threshold would be a dog that fails 3 times and then just kind of shuts down. So a high frustration threshold is very helpful in training, but you can teach your dog to tolerate failure. So that's not a deal breaker for me. Okay, another thing you'll hear, he's a talker. He loves to talk. He's such a friendly dog. A talker means the dog is very vocal and likely to express himself vocally. When considering a service dog, a vocal dog or a dog that barks in public is a disruption to businesses, and the business, if your dog barks, especially at a person, the business has the right to ask you to leave. So that is something to consider. Go meet the dog, see how vocal he actually is. Talk to the person adopting him out. When does he express himself vocally? When does he like to talk? And see if it's something you can work through. He gets along with other dogs if he's introduced properly. This is a dog that does not like other dogs. He can learn to live with his housemates, but he does not want to be meeting other dogs on a frequent basis. That's not a deal breaker for a service dog unless he's dog reactive. So if you take the dog on a walk and have maybe a friend bring their dog and walk him on the other side of the sidewalk, if he sees the other dog on a walk and he starts lunging and barking at that other dog, that is not a good candidate for a service dog. Okay, he came back 3 times due to no fault of his own. What did the other people decide that they couldn't deal with? Did he nip at a child? Did he have too much energy? Did they not know how to funnel his mental stimulation? Why did that dog come back 3 times? If it's due to no fault of his own, they still brought him back for a reason. What was that reason? He didn't get along with blank in his prior house. He's just misunderstood. Sometimes it's because of the dog. Sometimes it's because of the kid. Sometimes it's because the dog had to drive to chase the bird. Sometimes it's because the people didn't know how to work the dog's mind. Often it's because people didn't know how to work the dog's mind. However, you do not want a dog with a bite history. Service dogs cannot have a bite history, because if something happens in public or somebody asks you to leave a business and you try to fight it in court, because public access is granted to service dogs by law. But if you try to fight it in public and the court finds out your dog has a bite history, they can take your dog away from you. And that would be horrible and traumatic for you, for your dog, and it would always, those cases always make things more difficult for the service dog community. So find out, make sure your candidate does not have a bite history. If it does, that's too bad. Gotta move on. Okay, now some breeder-specific points. My first choice for a service dog is to go to a breeder. And these are the reasons. Good breeders, reputable breeders, have an excellent health history for their dogs. For example, I can go back 5 generations or more with my Australian Shepherds, and I know that 5 generations or more, there's no hip dysplasia in my lines. I can also go back 5 generations or more and confidently tell people my dogs tend to live on past 15 years. And they tend to still be working at 15 years old. Still herding, still doing agility, still going strong on hiking trails. They live a long, healthy life. That's what you want for your service dog, because service dogs have to work almost every day. So they don't get days off, really. They get an hour here, hour there, but they don't really get days off where they don't have to work at all. Okay. Good breeders should have medical clearances on all their dogs, and their dog's parents, and their parents, and their parents. That means OFA certifications for hips, eyes, elbows, and whatever else pertains to your breed. Sometimes it's the heart, sometimes it's the kidney, sometimes it's the spine. But hips, eyes, elbows, knees are the ones that I generally look at. They should also have genetic clearances. Your service dog should be cleared for all genetic health problems common in the breed. Now, with certain dogs like border collies, that's not possible because they're still working to get rid of certain issues. So you might see, okay, this line still has seizures, which are very common in border collies. With Australian Shepherds, German Shepherds, and other herding breeds, MDR1 is still very prevalent. It's not considered a genetic disease, but it can happen in that breed. So look at what's common in the breed, how likely it is this shouldn't be there, and then make sure that the breeder you're looking at has health clearances genetically and otherwise on their dogs. Age appropriate to be bred. Make sure they're not breeding their dogs before they're 2 years old. Some dogs, some breeders do a test breeding or something at 6 months old. That's too young to be having a litter. So make sure they're not breeding before the age of 2. You want the dog to be fully mature so that the litter growing inside the female's belly is getting the proper nutrition. You also don't want the males to be being bred too early. They often, 1, can't produce a litter that early, or 2, if they can produce a litter, it takes a lot out of them and it's hard on their growing joints. So it's compromising their structural health. The number of dogs that they have, are they able to give each of their dogs one-on-one attention, or do they have an outrageous amount and the dogs are being ignored in their kennels outside somewhere? This is important. It doesn't seem like it's that important, but if they're telling you, this litter is going to be great for service dog work, but I've only spent really 2 hours out of the dad's life with him at all. If you have too many dogs, you can't possibly know them all individually. It's literally impossible to spend individual time with each dog when you have 30 dogs. So to get a service dog, you want to know that this breeder knows the parents and has the time to dedicate to the litter being born so that they can match me with my right puppy. Okay, what happens to the retired dogs? I knew of one breeder who, when she was done breeding her dogs, she took them to the vet and had them put down. That is not what should be happening. Are they adopting their dogs out? Are they giving their retired dogs to a shelter or a rescue? Or are they finding them good homes? Do they stay with the breeder until they get old and pass on? What happens to those retired dogs? You want them to be vested in the quality of life of their dogs. Rehoming retired dogs is perfectly acceptable. One can only manage so many dogs. And if the dog is going to be someone's special dog when it goes and retires into a nice home, that's great. But just ask, what can you live with? Alrighty. Titles. Are the dogs titled and in what? So a common title for Australian Shepherds is a herding dog title. For a service dog, that could be a title that you're looking at, but herding dogs often have a lot of drive to herd, and sometimes that's about it. And you try to teach them something else, and you take them on a walk, and all they want to do is go herd the rabbits. So what are they titled in? Are they titled in rally? Are they titled in obedience? Those are good titles. Are they titled in agility? That means they have good handler focus. What are they titled in? And then I had one more point that I wanted to make before we close this video. If you're looking at a breeder, what pick are you? Breeders have a wait list and they have a pick list. So if you put a deposit down on the breeder, do they guarantee you a specific litter? If they do guarantee you a specific litter, how likely is it that that litter is going to give you what you need? Some breeders have just a wait list, and then when your puppy shows up, hey, we have your puppy. This is the puppy for you. Could be a year down the road, could be 3 years down the road. But more important than the wait list, what pick are you? So the wait list is 1, you're waiting for the right litter to show up. Your pick list is out of a litter of 8. Are you pick number 5? That is not a good pick for a service dog. For service dogs, the breeder needs to understand and agree with you that you have to be pick number 1. You have to get first choice, or the breeder picks your puppy for you first above all the other puppies. I was working with one breeder for my next service dog, and I talked to her, we talked price, we talked when the litter was, we talked if the litter was confirmed. I went to a show and I sat down and I spoke with her in person. There are steps that you want to go through when picking out your puppy, especially when you're talking with a breeder. And I asked her, she said that she matches people with her puppies, and that is great. If a breeder's willing to get to know the puppies at that level to match you with your puppy, that's better than anything, because she is with he is with the puppies from birth every single day. They know what they're likely to become as adults. Well, I asked her, I said, so how does the picking work? And she goes, oh, well, I give preference to show homes. So I was likely to be pick number 3 or 4. So if a puppy came up with a perfect nose, the perfect temperament, the perfect personality to be a service dog, I may not have gotten that puppy, because that puppy may have gone on to be a show dog instead. And that's not, I wasn't planning on showing my puppy in conformation. So I had to move on. because a service dog has to have a special temperament. You cannot be saddled with a puppy that's likely to have fear problems. You cannot be saddled with a puppy that's likely to have barking problems. Your service dog needs to be top of the line. So when you're looking for your service dog, make sure you consider all these different aspects of what you're looking for, what questions to ask, and look for the best candidate. Don't settle on something that can wash out, because washing out, it wastes your time, it's hard on the dog, and the washout rate for service dogs can be pretty high if you don't find the right candidate. So if you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments or send me a message, and don't forget to like and follow. Thanks.